The Vikings were diverse Scandinavian seafarers from Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, whose raids and subsequent settlements significantly impacted the cultures of Europe and the Mediterranean regions. The Viking Age began in 793 when these pagan raiders attacked Lindisfarne monastery in England, shocking the Christian community of Western Europe. They would keep returning, raiding, and then even settling across the northern hemisphere for about 3 centuries, becoming an integral part of early medieval Europe. The Vikings were not known as Vikings at the time. The word Viking is believed to come from the old Germanic word Viking, meaning pirate. Most Scandinavians were not Vikings. The term applied only to those who took to the sea for the purpose of acquiring wealth by raiding in other lands. Those who traded peacefully with other cultures were known as Northmen or Norsemen, among others. Contrary to the popular 18th century romanticized image of the Vikings as filthy and savage warriors wearing horned helmets, they were actually quite refined and paid a great deal of attention to hygiene and appearance. Although their name in the present day is almost synonymous with warfare and destruction, the Scandinavian culture was actually highly developed, and the Viking raids on other nations were only one aspect of the civilization. In Scandinavia, the Vikings were originally ruled by regional chiefs and worshipped pagan gods. They believed the gods gave each person the gift of life, and the person must prove himself worthy by being brave and glorious. If they died a heroic death in battle, then they earned a place in Valhalla in the afterlife. This is likely why they were so aggressive and unafraid in their raids. The Viking society was divided into aristocracy, lower class, and slaves. Women had relatively many rights. They could own property, for example, which was unusual at the time. It is unclear why exactly the Vikings started raiding overseas. It might be because they were a slave-based society who kidnapped foreigners as slaves, or because there was a surplus of young men looking for wealth and land. It might also be because Europe at the time was vulnerable and politically fragmented after the fall of Rome. Monasteries especially were easy targets because they were wealthy and often unguarded. Initially, the Vikings only came for wealth, raiding, plundering, and taking slaves, and then returning home in time for harvest. However, as time went on, they began to settle, seeking territory and power. The Vikings went to the British Isles, Ireland, and Faroe Islands, and around 900 they colonized Iceland. Their settlements there and in Greenland placed them in an ideal position to travel as far as North America long before Christopher Columbus. The Vikings had the biggest impact on Northern Europe, where they settled the most. They subjugated the majority of Scotland and its islands and founded the first trading centers in Ireland such as Dublin, Waterford, and Limerick. They also went south into continental Europe, even as far as North Africa and the Mediterranean, although they did not settle as much there due to the strength of the Carolingian Empire. In France, local kings made peace with the Vikings in return for their protection. For example, in 911, a West Frankish king granted Normandy to a Viking chief called Rollo in return for his protection against other Viking raiders. Some Vikings went east to Russia and the Baltic regions, probably in a more peaceful capacity to trade. There are even tales of Viking mercenaries in Constantinople where they formed the Emperor's Varangian Guard. The Vikings wreaked particular havoc against the Anglo-Saxons in England. The Christian Anglo-Saxons believed the Vikings were sent by God as punishment for their sins. Consequently, King Alfred made big efforts to enforce and spread Christianity as a deterrent against the Vikings. He united the forces of Wessex and Mercia against the Great Viking Army in England, winning the Battle of Edington in 878 and preventing the Vikings from taking his kingdom. After this, the Vikings controlled northern England, called Danelaw, and the Anglo-Saxons controlled the rest of England. Later, the Viking Sven Forkbeard conquered all of England, making it one territory. But the Vikings and Anglo-Saxons would continue to fight over it until the Norman-French invasion of 1066, when England was taken over by William of Normandy. By this time, the Vikings had become increasingly Christianized due to their interaction with Western Europe. This helped them assimilate into other cultures, making peace, trade, and marriage through a Christian identity. No single engagement ended the Viking Age. Viking activities abroad meant they slowly became absorbed into the wider European culture. The Christianization of Scandinavia throughout the 10th and 11th centuries was certainly among the factors contributing to its end. However, the Vikings did not disappear altogether. They left their legacy throughout Europe in different ways, from architecture to language, place names, warfare, shipbuilding, and in their epic sagas and mythology which continue to captivate audiences today.